I honestly think it took me too long to do this video because I didn't want to admit that I didn't finish one of the series. It's still ongoing, but I had to give up. I had to tap out. These are terrible DC comics that I was recommended by TikTok users. So what terrible monstrosities have the TikTok users picked for me? Well, we've got Killing Joke, we've got Injustice, we've got Rick Grayson storyline, we've got Wonder Woman Tom King, we've got Jenny Sparks Tom King, and we have Catwoman Guardian of Gotham. Now, if I were cherry picking statistics here, I would say that means that all men that write comic books are bad. Not a single woman has written a bad comic book. I'm just jib jabbering. Let's get into it. Let's start with the Killing Joke. This is the first one I read. This was the first one that was recommended to me. I don't really like the character of the Joker at all. I dislike him. I did ask for it, by the way. I did ask for the people's worst DC Comics recommendations, so this is on me a little bit. But the only thing worse than having Killing Joke recommended to me would be someone recommending the Joker movie to me. Even if people lie and tell me it's good, I'm not gonna watch it. I don't care about the Joker. He's the Joker. He's evil. What more do you want to know about him? My one bad day would be reading the Killing Joke comic, watching the Joker, and watching Joker 2. That would be my one bad day. The actual comic itself, it's not great. I don't like the movie. I don't like the comic. I don't know which is worse. The Killing Joke comic is more a series of whys. Why are we going into the Joker's background? Why are you trying to make me sympathetic for this character? And I just didn't have a great time with it. I can see why I was recommended this. But it's really funny because I know this is one of like those iconic stories that like a lot of people like. And I have to ask those people, what do you like about it? Like why is this comic ever present in your mind? I'm a lot like Joker from the movie Joker. If I had to say one good thing about The Killing Joke, it's that I really do enjoy the art. This is like a theme that you'll see with a lot of these bad comics. Like, I don't think anyone recommended a comic that had bad art and bad story. I think The Killing Joke is just kind of a mediocre story that is hyped up to be like such a good story because of the ambiguous ending, but it doesn't hit that hard for me. Especially after doing edgy stuff kind of just for the sake of it. Like, I know all of it was to get under Batman and Jim Gordon's skin, but like, there's so much that happens that just you didn't know need to go that far, especially with Barbara Gordon. You didn't need to go that far with Barbara Gordon. You didn't need to go that far with Jim Gordon. He's just inexplicably naked. Okay. I think the strongest part of like the Killing Joke is abandoned really fast, where the Joker is turning people into having the big O smiles. That was really horrifying. And if he did that to like everyone he left, that would be horrific. But they kind of just did trauma stuff for the sake of doing it. Otherwise, I don't have much to say about it. I'm not happy I read it, but it's a comic. The next book I read was Catwoman Guardian of Gotham. This is like an Elseworld story where Catwoman is Batman, essentially. They swap roles for this. But then Bruce Wayne isn't rich and he's a different person. It's a whole thing. But it is an Elseworld story. And I think that's why this one didn't bother me that much in terms of lore, in terms of canon, because it's an Elseworld story. Elseworld stories don't bother me that much. Usually. They usually don't bother me that much, I should say. I think the biggest crime of the beginning half of the series is that it was kind of boring. Like, there's so many more interesting things you can do with Catwoman as the Guardian of Gotham and as the Batman-like creature. But the beginning is kind of boring. The ending is where all the sauce happens. It's like, boom, this happens, boom, the next plot point happens. Everything is happening at the end. Well, otherwise the beginning is like a slow start to build everything up, and I understand it's hard to build up the story, but I wish there was a little bit more of something going on. My favorite part of this comic was Catwoman, whenever her and her maid had going on, there was something suspect there. There were many allusions to that and never outright confirmations, and that's a crime. It's a crime because otherwise the plot is just, oh no, is Catwoman gonna fall for the villain Bruce Wayne because once she gets married to him, everything's gonna fall apart. And it kind of does. But, like, the audience is told he's a villain, so it's just kind of frustrating to watch Catwoman be like, "Oh, I'm falling in love," because we know it's not real. So I think that's why the beginning is frustrating, because it's all a plot point towards marriage that we know is gonna fail. But if you stick with it, the ending, some crazy things happen. That's like I said, all the action happens in the ending. There's so much. Multiple deaths. There's just so much. The next series I was recommended was Injustice. I took this with a grain of salt. I read Injustice Year Zero and then I read Injustice Year One. That's I tapped out after that. See, they didn't say I had to read the whole of Injustice. I just read up to book one. That's enough. Remember how I said usually Elseworld stories don't bother me that much? Oh boy, Injustice sure is that Elseworld story that bothers me that much. She's kind of like the evil Superman has been done to death. And that's what this story essentially is. That's all it is. It's just evil Superman. Imagine my surprise when I found out that this was written by Tom Taylor. I did not know that. That was new knowledge to me. That is crazy. Oh boy, are the Toms in a lot of people's worst comic lists. I don't think it's as egregious with Tom Taylor because at least it's just like in his case, sometimes he just writes bad stories. With Tom King's case, oh boy, there is so much more going on there. Anyway, back to Injustice. Injustice Year Zero was very much just the prequel and setting up everything that happens into the video game, or even it's even established in the intro. It's like this is the events that happened before the video game. My issues don't really start until Injustice Year One. That's a lot to unpack there. I guess the one thing I wasn't prepared for in Injustice Year Zero were the amount of characters that were in this. I didn't really know that Harl Ivy was in it briefly, and I didn't know that Alan Scott Green Lantern was in this story. I'm gonna be honest, when I played the video game, I don't think I played story mode. I think me and my sibling just beat each other up. I did not pay attention. I don't know what's going on there. I don't even know who I made. We played it for like 20 minutes and never again. Year one is where, again, a lot of these comics that are like not really edgy, but they do a lot for shock value. It's like, oh, you didn't think your character would do this, huh? Well, we're doing it in this universe. Shock value for the sake of it never sits well with me, or even just for the sake of a cliffhanger. I'm just like, I hate it. It's bad. Please stop doing it. Obviously, my biggest issue in this comic is Evil Superman. It's so bad. I think it's worse in the comics than the movie was, because I did watch the movie. I have seen the Injustice movie, but the comics are worse. There was this one moment in the comics that wasn't in the movie where I was just like, no, I'd be gone. I'd be gone from the superheroes. I'd never be with Superman ever again. Like, I would be gone. There are many moments of Superman's regime, of course, where I would just be like, no, I'm not a part of this anymore. Like, I'm gonna stop. Goodbye. The moment that really did it in for me is when Galaxor is like, we have a right to protest. And then Superman and Wonder Woman just like paralyze him on the spot as the Flash looks on. The Flash is also complicit in this because he just watches it happen. And I know these moments are just to show like how far Clark has fallen, how far he's gone. But there are so many of them. This is like one of many, many, many things that they have Superman do where it's like, oh, he's too far gone. He's lost everything. He still has mom pocket. Like, don't get me wrong, I know Lois dying is a big one. That's a huge one. And with his like future baby, that's it's also really anyway, awful situation that he's in, of course. But he just falls further and further into that evil Superman over these actions, and I know he lost a lot because Metropolis and the whole thing with Jimmy, and like I know there's a lot that he lost. Ma and Pa Kent are still alive. That's what gets me. And I know that's because a later plot point is like, oh, he killed the Green Arrow because he thought that they were gonna kill his parents, and like, okay. And I also knocked down a recent story that I read that I really did enjoy for this, but I knocked them down too. So if I knock down a really good story for it, I have to knock down this story for it. I do not like when Superman and Wonder Woman are in a romantic pairing. I do not like it. I Lois dies and suddenly Wonder Woman's like, I'm your girl. I hate it. Thanks, I hate it. I don't think these characters should be connected ever. And it's like, it's kind of just like people thinking, hey, doesn't Wonder Woman look like Lois? And it's Sure, she's also a powerful, strong woman like Lois, but they have such different vibes and different character traits that I don't know. I just personally don't see Superman and Wonder Woman in a relationship ever being a good thing. So I write it off and I'm just like, no, I don't like that pairing. So that on top of super evil Superman is just like this is the worst story in the world for me. I can't continue after year one. Like I simply what more is there? More edgy deaths and more terrible things happening. Sign me out. Like I'm good. I cannot believe there are that many Injustice stories. I know the issues of Injustice are pretty short, but like there's so many of them. Why? I think it was the video games. I think the video games really pushed it over and they were like, we gotta keep making more comics. Tie-ins, 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 tie-ins. Rick Grayson! The Rick Grayson storyline. This isn't just me reading like the Nightwing issues or the Rick Grayson issues. I also read like the issues where Rick Grayson was featured in, some Batman, some other things. The death of Alfred, that crazy going ons. I will say the start of this storyline being in Batman really just felt like they wanted to have a lot going on with Batman's character arc and they wanted more because the whole start of the story feels very self-serving to Batman's story. It doesn't feel very self-serving to Nightwing's story. And I know that's going to happen either way because it's a memory loss arc and he's a different character now, but it felt a lot more self-serving and the fact that it even starts in a Batman book should tell you which character it's more for in the beginning. I do think in the end they are able to bring it back in a much more creative way, but by then they had lost so many people that I think they held off for too long on that mystery and I don't even know if that was the original plan of the entire storyline, and if it wasn't, that's hell of save. Gotta say. Anyway, back to the beginning of the Rick Grayson storyline. It starts in a Batman issue, written by our favorite. And one thing I do appreciate is that this injury would cause major memory loss. The injury that Nightwing does suffer would cause major memory loss. This is a psychology thing, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. You can have like the entire frontal lobe gone and still be a functioning person. Will there be differences in your personality and memory? Yes, but you can still be a functioning person. Because of the famous story of Phineas Gage, we know this, and like a lot more incidents since then have proven this to us. So I do at least appreciate the realism of that. But should we have realism in comic books? That's a story for another day. Anyway, Nightwing gets shot and then his memories are gone and he's like, who is everyone in this room? I don't know. Stumbles upon a new identity because he doesn't really want to be connected to the past because he can't remember anything and it's becoming frustrating for him and he'd rather just start over than try and hang on to those people that are just strangers to him. And he wants to grow more meaningful connections with other people. The only reason from an outsider perspective that I'm even okay with this story and how it was handled, again, in the end, is because I am not a Nightwing fan. I do not know a lot about him. I am sure Nightwing fans were having a rough go. Because remember, comics happen in real time. This was about, I want to say, about 2 years where he was just not Nightwing in his own book. He was a different character, and that is frustrating. I do understand that. I would not want that to happen to my characters either. And then the cherry on top, this happens in the midst of Alfred dying. So Nightwing doesn't even get to process that because he doesn't even know who the man was except someone who kept trying to reach out to him who was basically a stranger to him, which doubly sad. I understand why everyone was freaking out on him and being like, kindly just leave then. If you're not going to bring anything productive to this conversation, maybe stop infuriating the other people that are here. I do understand though why he as a character was there because brings in more drama and ooh. Yeah, I feel like the story would be harder to read if I were a Nightwing fan. But the entire Court of Owls storyline and mystery I felt was played really well. I really like the love interest that he has in this series. But then again, everything is temporary here. We kind of know that he's not going to stay this way forever and he's going to go back to Nightwing. So any relationships that he forms are kind of like, well, I know this isn't going to exist and stay, so this kind of sucks. And then in the end, he does kind of have to be like, I have cut association with all these people. Please don't go after them. And especially hits hard with his love interest because it's another instance of the disposable black girlfriend, which is a trope many a black woman can talk way better about than I can. But I do notice and acknowledge that it falls into that trope. And it's really sad. Oh, also the Legion of Nightwing's cops were stupid. I liked the characters. I liked the one that was a firefighter, but the characters as cops were just like, oh, okay. Like I understand that's what super out heroes can be seen as in general, but all these civilians getting into the Nightwing costume every night and being like, hey, I don't have superpowers, but I have a hope and a dream. I don't know, after that dude got severely wounded that one time, they all should have just been like, whoa, I'm stepping away from this. And mostly they did, but the one guy obviously could not stop himself, and he's just like, I'm gonna continue doing this because it's what I do anyway. And sure, I didn't really enjoy them because again, I was like, well, these guys are just going to be temporary. And I guess with foresight, it makes it a lot better too because I know the Nightwing's going to go to his normal self. He's going to go to his normal supporting cast, and like I can remove myself from the situation and go, okay, eventually this is going to be better. So, but yeah, this storyline, I can see why a lot of fans do not enjoy it, will not go back to read it, and wouldn't have stuck on that long to like see the mystery and the intrigue of it and where that all leads. Do I have to talk about the Tom King stories I was made to read? I guess I have to get something out of being made to read them. Again, self-imposed. Self-imposed. I asked people for the worst stories, and they delivered. Should we start with Jenny Sparks or Wonder Woman? I read about the same amount of issues for both. I'll start with Jenny Sparks. As a recent Authority fan, I did not enjoy the Jenny Sparks series. It's how probably the Rick Grayson storyline felt for Nightwing fans. I did not enjoy it. I think and again, I know this isn't technical Elseworld story, but I think that Jenny Sparks should stay dead. Hot take. I'm not gonna get into the minutia of canon. I'm not gonna get into the minutia of canon. I'm not gonna get into the minutia of canon. Except that Jenny Sparks dying and then becoming reborn in Apollo and Midnighter, babysitting and growing up this baby, this new like Jenny Sparks reincarnation is the cutest storyline ever. And anything that takes that away from me is evil and cruel. And that's all I'll say about that. But Jenny Sparks, what do I have to say good about this? Tom King gets really good artists. He gets really good artists. Somehow. Some way. Don't know how. I think the thing that always just bothers me about the most Tom King stories is his obsession with war and soldiers and war, especially 9/11. 9/11 is a big one in Jenny Sparks. I am slightly dumb though. I didn't realize until I read the description of the Jenny Sparks story, after I had read all of it by the way, that 9/11 is the event that reanimates Jenny Sparks. I was like, oh, that's what that was about? I had no sense of why she was rebirthed. And that's on me for like not paying attention to the story, I guess. I know I kept seeing the Twin Towers, but I thought that was just Tom King's obsession with 9/11. I don't know. That's on me, I guess. That's on me. I wish this was a better story for Jenny Sparks. And yeah, some of the more taken out of context panels are always going to infuriate people. The whole COVID thing was a choice. I just wish if you're going to reanimate Jenny Sparks and have her in the new century that we do more interesting things with it than just sit around in a bar making stories that way. We kind of have just one central location, and I know there's a lot more going on in the story. Otherwise, the world feels very small to me in that story. And I think it's just the always ending up in the bar and always being there. And I know that's the sense of feeling it's supposed to be because these people are trapped in the bar. I just feel like there's more interesting stories you can go with having control over Jenny Sparks as a character. The original Authority story was they're in a spaceship in space and they go on so many sci-fi like adventures. Why are we paring Jenny Sparks down to like modern era and only being in the modern era? I don't understand. I think the majority of my problems with Tom King's stories are just like they don't live up to the character's potential. They don't live up to who this character was before, and it's like, did he even do any research on the character? I don't know. I know for a fact that he had to be told about what was interesting about Wonder Woman's character. This has been knowledge that has been shared with us. Isn't that insane? How do you get on that book without knowing a darn thing about the character? I'm straying into Wonder Woman territory when I'm supposed to be talking about Jenny Sparks, but I am so infuriated. I could keep going about this. At least Jenny Sparks is only 6 issues to ruin. I did not have a fun time with Jenny Sparks. Again, like, The Authority is such a fun comic that has so much going on. If you pare Jenny Sparks down to a character, you can have so much more that can be done with her in the modern era, and you just wasted on a story primarily set on Earth. What are we doing? I live for science fiction stories. The Authority and Jenny Sparks in general are live and breathe sci-fi stories. Like, to me, The Authority and all of those characters are sci-fi stories. Why do we keep bringing them to the street level? That's kind of also a problem I've been having with Apollo and Midnighter. One, they're not in enough stories. Two, we kind of just have them on Earth. I feel like it's fun to have them in different situations. And they still have been doing some fun things with the characters ever since they've been brought to DC. But like, I feel like they can do so much more. Make it more sci-fi. Make it less street level. Make it less they're just on Earth. I would love that. I would enjoy it so much. Anyway, let's get to the real reason I'm here, to complain about Tom King's Wonder Woman. Because isn't it fascinating and wonderful and interesting for Diana's character if we just like slaughter a bunch of Amazons at the beginning? Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be cool? And wouldn't it be like the coolest thing in the world if we tied so much of her story to Steve Trevor? If we just like decided that everything was gonna revolve around this really cool soldier boy because the writer is obsessed with war and soldiers and Iraq. And wouldn't it be amazing if we were just telling all the Amazons to go back to their like to Themyscira? If we just like forcibly were deporting and killing them all if they didn't comply. And wouldn't it be awesome if the entire story was nothing like a Wonder Woman story, because the author had again, I've mentioned this before, the author had to have the character explain why she's interesting. And wouldn't it be cool if I stopped reading after I saw Wonder Woman in the dream sequence? As a housewife from the 40s, I finished the issue, to be fair. I did enjoy the ending of that issue, where it's like, oh, she's a powerful woman. Actually, she can snap out of the lasso of lies, and we can show her being a strong, powerful woman. That was cool. Could not get over it. I could not get over how we portrayed her in that. Even in a dream sequence, I didn't enjoy it. And I know that the series doesn't get much better. Again, I don't really like taking things out of context and like not continuing the series for that reason. But much better Wonder Woman fans than me can explain every single thing that is wrong with the series as it continues on and on and on and on. But even I, not knowing Wonder Woman that well, can tell you why it's wrong that the Steve Trevor statue that she built is taller than her. That is not correct. Wonder Woman is taller than most people. She is taller than Superman. She is taller than Batman. Why is the statue she's making of Steve Trevor taller than that? Than her? Like, she's also making the statue. What is... Huh? Why? The story decisions to prop up Steve Trevor so much are, like, so insanely bizarre. And you can make Steve Trevor so much of an interesting character, and I feel like this doesn't. Also, doesn't he sacrifice himself and he dies anyway? Yeah. Anyway, it's proven that that a better Wonder Woman series exists, so like, don't be reading this one. Do not torture yourself. I couldn't make it past, what was that, issue number 8? I could not make it past a certain threshold, and the fact that this series is still going is a testament to how much DC does not care about the character. When a book for a different universe of the character is probably selling better than your book, then you should be like ashamed of yourself, just a little bit. You should be a little sad at yourself and you should be going, huh, what can I do to change this? What can I do to make my book better? But that's not gonna happen. Just go read Absolute Wonder Woman, save yourself the time. Again, Steve Trevor can be done well as a character, and I feel like he's done pretty well in that. I don't have a problem with Steve Trevor as a character. I have a problem with Steve Trevor as a character written by Tom King. I don't want to quite say that it feels levels of like writing himself into the character. That's not really what it feels like. But I don't enjoy Tom King's portrayal of Steve Trevor. It just feels wrong to me. And again, I don't even know that much about the character. It all just feels so off. And that's why I had to quit while I was ahead, at least a little bit. I'm like, I'm not going to torture myself for the continuation of this video. And anyone that can is stronger than I am. Anyone that enjoys the series, I'm happy for you. I really am. I could yap on and on and on about all the things wrong with this series. It's just a lot. And again, the art is really nice. The art is there. Sometimes I would just scroll through and not read because I'm like, the art is pretty. But when I was figuring out whether I should keep reading, I was just like scrolling through. I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. We're we're golden. I, however, hope that Tom King does not get his wishes to go like 100 issues. Why why does he even want to go that long with this character that he had to have explained to him? I don't understand why he's holding on to it so bad. I don't think I want to understand this man's mind though. There are some dark things in there. I'm more than glad that I don't understand Tom King as a writer, because I think it would just frustrate me to no end to try and get answers. Anyway, thanks for listening to the yap sesh of me going crazy over reading recommended worst DC comics. I had fun at the start of this. I went in really gung-ho of this challenge and I was like, I'm gonna get it done and I'm gonna record the video and I'm gonna be on top of it. And here we are. So much later on. The ones that I didn't go into detail about are because the story wasn't that bad. It's just a case of like, these are mediocre to bad comics. They aren't killing and destroying the character that I once loved. If you enjoyed me slowly going more and more insane, please do consider subscribing, liking, and commenting. It really does help. And I do want answers to some of my questions. Because like, why did Injustice comics go on for so long? Were people reading them? Was it that popular? Also, if you're enjoying Tom King's run of Wonder Woman, I need to know why. It is imperative that I know why. Elaborate. I don't care how long the comment is, I will read it. Oh, one more thing that kind of annoyed me about the Jenny Sparks comment. I know we have the enjoyment of being in the DC universe now and bringing the authority characters into the DC universe can be exciting because they can collaborate with a lot of other characters and be brought into them. I just think Jenny Sparks, the knowledge of Jenny Sparks and Superman having gone to school together is not something I needed to think about. And in actuality, I think that I would like for Superman to be kept away from writers that I just don't like. That I think that's what's happening here. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.